Welcome to the next edition of the Suffolk Sewing Circle. Today we will be making bibs for babies that would fit children ages 6 months to 12 months. And in this lesson you will learn how to apply a sew-on snap. That is the new skill we have for today. As you can see, it's a nice secure closure for baby items as well as adult garments, and so that's a nice skill to have. So these are a great quick project that uses just a small amount of materials. It's a handy use for your scraps. They're quick to make for your own little one, and they're awesome to make for gifts as well. So we're so glad that you're here to join us today, and we'll get started showing you how to make these cute baby bibs. Okay, so to get started on making a baby bib, just want to show you the materials that we'll be using today. It only requires a couple of things, so this is a handy project to use up some small pieces of material you might have hanging around after larger projects. So we will be making a bib that fits a 6 to 12 month old infant, so it's a little bit larger. You can make smaller ones for younger babies or larger ones for older babies, but we're going to choose that size for this project. And I have here just some quilting cotton. This is about a half a yard of 44-inch wide quilting cotton. You can choose really any color that you like. I also have a piece of polar fleece, so this is going to be in the middle. And this is the absorbent fabric, so this is what helps keep the messes on the bib and not on the child's clothes. This is a really big piece, so we don't even really need this much, but this right here is a 1/4 of a yard of 60-inch wide polar fleece, and so you could do with an even smaller piece if you have one, but I would choose a solid color preferably, because it might show through a little bit. And either a coordinating color, or if you have say white fleece, that would work as well. And then we have coordinating thread, and we have one sew-on snap. I'm going to show you this method because it doesn't require hardware, but you can buy the punch-on snaps that come with the tool to apply them, so that is a quicker option compared to what we're going to do here. But I just wanted to demonstrate how to sew on a snap as a part of this project here. I also have my scissors because I'm going to show you how to cut this out. You can also use a rotary cutter on a cutting board like I have here, so that's another option. And then you'll need either some pins or some wonder clips, and so I'm actually going to show you how to use wonder clips in this video because I've talked about them before, and I just want to demonstrate what those are like as an alternative to straight pins. And then of course your sewing needle. We will be using our sewing machine for this project, and we'll show you how to get started by cutting out the project to begin. Okay, so we're going to get started by cutting out our pieces from our quilting fabric here. This is just our cotton piece. Our directions here say cut 2 of fabric and cut 1 of flannel. So we're going to start by cutting 2 of the fabric. So what this is, as you cut on the fold, it creates a mirror image. So this is 1/2 of it basically. Now if I were to just fold my piece in half one time, you'll see that this is too tall to fit 2 of them. So what I've done instead is I have folded it in thirds, sort of, by folding it this way and then this way, and that way I have 2 folds I can use. So I can cut a piece here and I can cut a piece over here, alternatively like that. The other thing to keep in mind is I'm using a solid fabric here. If you are using a printed one that has a directional print, be thoughtful about how to lay your pieces so that you end up with your print in the same direction on both sides. So this is going to be the front and the back of the project. So I'm going to start by cutting out this piece here, and I'm just going to grab a couple pins to keep it in place. You also could use a pattern weight instead of pinning, so that's an option there. Either way it would work, just as long as it's not wiggling. you want to make sure that you have folded it nice and square so that you're cutting with the grain line. The other thing is I have already pre-washed and pressed my fabric, so it's ready to use. Okay, so I've got my piece on here. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. You could also use your scissors if you have a nice sharp pair of sewing scissors. So I'll cut out this piece here. And this is why I like a rotary cutter for this project, because cutting around a rounded space like this can be kind of challenging. I find that this works well for me. And there you have it. So that's how you're going to cut out your pieces. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm also going to go ahead and cut my polar fleece just like that, folding it in half. And for that one, I'll only need one piece per my instructions. And so I'll show you what we do with it next after everything is cut. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces cut out, we're ready to sew them. So I've already laid them out here like they need to go. And so what we're going to do is lay our absorbent interlining, in this case flannel, on the bottom layer, and then we're going to lay down our cotton right side up, and then another piece of cotton right side down. So in this case the cotton pieces are right sides together. That will allow us to sew it and then turn it right side out, so that our stitches are going to be on the inside. Okay, so do your best to line those up as closely as you can. I like to just kind of check that I have lined them up nicely as I'm getting ready to attach them together. Especially with flannel that's going to kind of stick to it, you might have to kind of wiggle it to make it right. Okay, so like I said, this time I'm going to demonstrate using Wonder Clips, which are these nice little things. They are great for garment making, things like this where you have to hold pieces together. They're usually available in the quilting section of sewing stores, or you can buy them online. So these are super handy to have around, and I'm going to show you how to use them in this video because we haven't done that before. So you could also just pin this all the way around, so that's another option, but this is why I like these pins. Look how fast I get them on there, and they come off just as fast. And another benefit is that they don't snag your fabrics, so it's not a big deal to use pins on quilting cotton like this, but finer fabrics where you don't want a pin mark like silk or something like that, you definitely don't want to use pins. You would prefer to use clips like this. This is also helpful for really thick projects. So this is why you find them in the quilting section. As you're putting a quilt together, it's quite thick sometimes, and so these are helpful to use. Alright, so just like that, it's coming together. And this is a project that you could cut out several of and make multiples as you go. So if you've got a little one in your house and you just want to stock up on bibs, you got a bunch of scraps sitting around that you could use, you could go ahead and cut several of them and sew them all at once to save yourself some time. Okay, So as you can see, they're all pinned together now using my Wonder Clips. And so now I'm going to grab my sewing machine and show you how to sew them together. So I'm going to stop here to make sure that I have room to turn it right side out. And as you can see, I have a little bit of a space right there that I left. All right, so before we turn it, we do need to clip our corners. So I will show you how to do that next. So before we turn it right side out, we want to put little notches in our curve here so that when we turn it right side out, it doesn't bunch up in the seam there. I'm going to use my embroidery scissors because this is kind of a skinny seam to be cutting and I don't want to cut through my stitches. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So you can put little notches like this right up to the stitches but not through the stitches, and just put them every quarter inch or so, and this will help your curve turn right side out really well in just a moment when we turn them right. So go all the way around, and I'm just going to make sure it goes all the way up to where the pieces meet up here, so it'll go all the way around the circle. And then I'll show you what it looks like when we turn it right side out. Okay, so as you can see, I have turned it right side out now that it's finished, and it's looking a little bit more like a bib now. And one tip I wanted to give is to use a chopstick, and so you want to make sure that you get everything completely turned right side out. And so use that chopstick to get down into those little corners like this, to just run along the edge here and make sure you got it all the way out. And we're going to do that all the way around. And so as you can see, I've already kind of done that here. And now we're just going to press it because the next step is going to be to top stitch, and that's going to be what makes it look really finished. This is going to help flatten out those seams so they won't be so pillowy, and that way when we top stitch here in a minute, it'll have a nice finished look. The other thing top stitching is going to do is going to be to close up that little gap that we left at the bottom here that helped us turn it right side out. So we're going to kind of tuck that in and top stitch it closed. So we'll just give that a good press. Make sure that we get our seams looking nice. You can flip it over, see a couple stray strings, that's fine. And just make sure that it looks as turned right side out as you can. And by clipping those curves like we did, you can see how nicely this lays flat now. If we hadn't done that, it would have been a lot bunchier right here, especially and we would have had a hard time pressing it flat. So that's why we did that step. So the next thing will be is to top stitch. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do here is our top stitching. As you can see, I have closed up that opening. So I just tucked it and tucked in the raw edges here so it looks even with the rest of the bottom. And so now I'm going to do a really narrow top stitching all around, so about as close to the edge as you can get, and not drive over the edge. So about 1/8 of an inch there would be good. In other words, about a stitch width from the edge. Alright, so I'm just going to stitch all the way around. Okay, so now that we've done our top stitching, we're ready to do our closure, which is the last step. For this one, I'm using a sew-on snap. You could also use the kind that punch on using a tool. And another option, if you don't have those handy, would be a small piece of Velcro. So any closure you like, but I wanted to demonstrate how to use a sew-on snap in this video, so that's what we're going to use. The main thing is to get the positioning right, and to do that I'm going to mark it with my iron-off pen. There's lots of different marking pens you could use. You could use one that washes off, one that fades over time, or one that uses heat. So to get this off, if you ever wanted to remove it, you could iron it, or you could even point a hair dryer at it to remove it and it would come off. In this case, our snap is going to cover it, so it really won't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to see that it overlaps like this, and so our snap is going to be right in that little corner there. And so to do that, I'm going to use the side that has the little dot, and I'm going to put it where I think it would go, right here, and I'm just going to imprint it like this so I can see the dot, and then I'm just going to mark it with my pen like that. Same thing is I'm going to set it right here, and I'm going to imprint it on the other side where I think it would join. And that left a little dot, and so I'm just going to use my pen to mark that like this. And so that's where our two pieces are going to go so that they line up well. Okay, so now we're going to sew on our snap, and what we're going to do first is have this piece on this side here, and we're going to sew it right on top of that dot. We're going to do it somewhat like we would a button, except we're going to go all around the circle instead of across. And I've also doubled up my thread for this so that I can make half as many stitches. So to make sure it's really secure, I'm gonna go over on the back side like this. I've already put a knot at the end, but I want to make sure that it's not going to come out. So I'm gonna go through the loop there, and I'm just gonna create a knot on the back because the snap is gonna get a lot of wear and tear, so it's gonna come off more easily if we don't secure it really well to start with. Alright, so then I'm gonna come up on the top there. And this is where I'm gonna put it through one of the holes here on my snap, just like I would a button, and then kind of position it where I want, like that. And then I'm gonna go down on the next hole here. Okay. And as you can see there, it kind of looks like you would on a button. So then I'm just going to go up on the next hole, and then down on the one beside it, and then up on the next hole, down on the one beside it. Oops, I missed one there. No big deal. So what I'm going to do there is just go up on the one I should have gone down on. And I'm just going to grab that thread like it should have been, whoops, and go down in that spot. That way it won't be in the way of my snap. That's an easy fix there. Alright, and so I'm going to go all the way around one more time just to make sure it's really secure. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side where I attach it like this, and I'm just going to go all the way around the snap there to secure it somewhat like a button. And that's our last step for this project. So there we have it. We've got both pieces of our snap on there. So if you just want to try it out, you can see how it works. And we have a finished bib. So these are easy to make, easy to adjust for size if you're making them for babies of different ages. And we appreciate you joining us today, and we hope to see you next time for the Suffolk Sewing Circle. Have a great day.